America's 250th birthday. In 1935, radio commentator and gossip columnist Walter Winchell was the first person to call a radio announcer a disc jockey. In those early days, DJs simply introduced records and read station IDs. But then pioneers like Al Jarvis developed personalities. With the birth of rock and roll, DJs became even more important.
We got to close it out. That's it for the Wolfman Jack show for tonight.
Legends were born like Alan Freed, Dick Clark, Wolfman Jack, and Casey Kasem.
I'm Casey Kasem. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Rick Dees and the weekly top 40.
The DJs became as famous as the recording artists they played, and millions of Americans grew up listening to Cousin Brucey, Murray the K, Rick Dees, Howard Stern, and Delilah.
In a world that commands us to sprint through life at breakneck speed, there is a profound power in choosing to slow down. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for June 19th.
While we celebrate World Sauntering Day as a fun excuse to ease up on our morning commute, it actually connects us to a radical 19th century French fashion statement. In the 1840s, wealthy urban wanderers known as flaneurs took to the crowded streets of Paris to protest the frantic pace of the Industrial Revolution. To prove they refused to be rushed by modern society, these eccentric gentlemen began walking pet turtles on leashes through the city's upscale shopping arcades. Because a tortoise moves at an agonizingly slow crawl, it forced the walker to completely downshift their pace, transforming a simple stroll into a theatrical act of mindfulness. Today, challenge the frantic rush of your schedule, step outside without a destination, and let a turtle set your speed.
Okay, now imagine a whole city of people with turtles on a leash.
So, if you're walking down the street and all these turtles are coming at you, what do you call it?
I do not know the answer to that.
Probably not a stampede, though, huh?
Probably not a stampede. We are also celebrating Juneteenth and National Watch Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a canine companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia. We quickly developed a very strong bond. Together, we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together, we pick vegetables, and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Do you hear that? And that? And that? Those are the sounds of a healthy and vibrant community. And to this United Way volunteer, nothing sounds better. They're the sounds of children being given greater chances to succeed in school. The sounds of neighbors receiving the support needed to overcome challenges, both big and small. They're the sounds of families gaining access to quality healthcare and nutritious food for their tables. And they're the sounds of members of our community who've benefited from United Way's financial education programs. See, wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a United Way. People working together to respond and growing the good for everyone. United is the way. So join us by getting involved or giving back. Learn more at unitedway.org.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey.
Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, may I ask a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog.
Great. Do you have a pool outside?
Nope, just a big old backyard.
Nice. Another question. Are there any unlocked guns in the home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's just talk about what we can bring for dessert.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
My name is Erica. My son, Kason, is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burnt. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide. He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kason is still here. Go online right now to loveshriners.org.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. Let their story unfold and gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. Hire skills first. Learn why at tearthepapperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
We are all for first-time guests and longtime friends. All for First Light and Starlight. For road trips and trail runs. All for mountaintops and monuments. River bends and battlefields. We're all for showing up and giving back. To protect, to preserve, to pass it on. All parks depend on us, and we're all for parks. Join us at nationalparks.org/allforparks.
Hi, human. I'm a micro monster swimming around in your plastic water bottle. But I can't wait to swim in your bloodstream soon.
Microplastics are micro monsters.
Drink me. Wait, what are you doing?
But you can fight back by using glass or metal reusable water bottles.
No!
Don't let microplastic micro monsters invade your body. Find more ways to fight back at stopmicromonsters.org.
Real conversations, real issues, real Guam. This is Wave 105, the talk of Guam.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
All right, Guam, it's 3:11 on this Juneteenth. KGUM-FM, Wave 105.1, the talk of Guam. This is Yuli, in with Mr. Pauly Suba for the BrightSide. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll get into the program.
We do want to thank our sponsors of the Bright Side, and that's Chili's Grill and Bar. At Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. Micro Pack, remember, Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at Micro Pack. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J Ford. Get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com and get pre-approved instantly. And GTA, we start with you. Biba Betness, 671-922-1051 or 1052. We are online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel. So, yesterday, there was a public hearing on 3 bills. We'll start with Bill 281 first. This is Senator Teresa Terlai's bill. It aims to create a new, easier driver's license pathway for adults 21 and older in Guam. And so Senator Terlai says the goal is to basically is many adults need a driver's license to work. So they need to support their families, get to appointments, and participate in daily life. Because Guam has limited public transportation, not having a license can keep people from getting or keeping a job. So right now, adults may have to follow Guam's graduated driver's license system, which was mainly designed for teenagers. She said that can mean driver education classes, supervised driving hours, extra costs, childcare problems, and scheduling issues, which she says those requirements may make sense for young drivers, but they can be unfair or unnecessary for responsible adults. And so this bill would not remove safety testing. Adults would still have to pass the vision test, written test, and road tests. The bill would only create a limited exemption for adults 21 and older who have shown responsible behavior, including having a clean driving-related record for at least 3 years. DRT supports the idea of reducing barriers for adults, especially because licenses are tied to employment. But DRT said public safety must come first. DRT recommends adding safeguards, including requiring applicants to disclose their driving history from other places, sign an affidavit, and allow DMV to verify records when possible. DRT also asks for 8 months to implement the law if it passes. Now, former Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson was also there, right? I think she was also, she AG, right? Yeah, she was an AG. So she supports the idea, but she says the bill should be strengthened. And so we'll share her testimony now.
But recommendations maybe to make it a lot stronger. My perspective comes from my history of being the DWI court judge, the driving while impaired judge, and of course currently now as chairman of the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission. I noticed that the bill referred to traffic offenses, but it did not refer to convictions for impaired driving or vehicular homicide or vehicular negligence. So in the bill that I have provided, I put down the list of those specific statutes which are contained in 9 Guam Code Annotated, Chapter 92, and also hit and run with injuries in Title 16, which is the Vehicle Code. So I think it was just an oversight. We want to make sure that if you're applying for a driver's license, you don't have a conviction for a vehicular homicide or drunk or impaired driving. So I also, while I support an expedited pathway for older citizens to get their driver's license, if it's the first time that a person over 21 is applying for a license, I still think they need to go through basic education. Maybe not as rigid or tough as what currently is on the books, because I think, Senator, that's your intent, to make it a lot easier for people who come to Guam who have been driving, for people who live here who want to drive, and maybe are driving late in life, to make it a little bit more accommodating for them. I think that makes a lot of sense, and states all have that. So I still think that first-time drivers over 21 and older should still have some form of education. I also support that if you've been driving for at least 10 years, maybe you don't need education because you've shown 10 or greater years of excellent driving, whether it's here on Guam or in the States. So those are just my thoughts when I saw this. I jumped in, I said, well, maybe I can provide some assistance to the committee. So thank you very much.
All right.
You're
so
very welcome.
Again,
And we do have a...
Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson supports the idea, but said the bill should be strengthened. She said it should clearly block people with serious offenses such as DUI, vehicular homicide, vehicular negligence, or hit and run with injuries from using their using this easier pathway. So she also says first-time drivers over 21 should still receive some basic driver education, even if it is shorter than the current requirement. And so others that testified, Marie Espinosa, she says she supports making it easier for adults to get licensed, but raised concerns about people who struggle with the written test, especially non-English speakers. She said the test should measure whether someone understands Guam's road rules, not how well they understand English. She suggested accommodations such as pictorial tests, simpler formats, or other language access support. Colleen and Leslie Smith, they are owners of Better Drivers Driving Education, agree that the current graduated license system is too burdensome for adults, especially older adults or people who move to Guam and cannot prove their prior driving experience. But they also warn against removing driver education completely. They said adults still benefit from safety training, road scenarios, and basic instruction, especially if they are new drivers or unfamiliar with Guam's roads. And so we'll play the testimony, a bit of the testimony from Mr. Leslie Smith.
Act to put all this in practice, that driver ed was mandated for everyone, and it wasn't just reduced to teens. It was for everybody because of, I think, the multicultural nature of the driving environment on Guam. I wasn't here for that, but that was my understanding. So I recognize that NHTSA Venn diagram of teen drivers and their risk and their lack of life experience and their immaturity. The immaturity part, driver ed can't address, but that's what the graduated licensing was for, the 6 months in the year. That was so that parents and law enforcement had something to work with teenagers in case they were acting up. We're not, let's see, I want to get my thought clear. The idea that we want to make it easier for adult drivers to get licensed is in our face every day. Everybody's faced with how onerous it is for an adult to get licensed. And we certainly recognize that. Driver ed, we've recognized over the year, will never change Guam's driving. We can't change the world. We won't change the environment on Guam. It's too many different inputs from all over the place. But we do find the individual outcomes is where we can make a difference. And that's what we focus on. Driver ed won't change anything except there's a chance to improve individual outcomes. As my wife Colleen mentioned, adult drivers have a pretty tough time of it, but they still appreciate the couple hours that we spend going over scenarios. I have a library of scenarios that we go over, and I think it would be throwing the baby out with the bathwater if we just say that anybody over 21 doesn't need driver ed. Driving's a privilege. Training in any other context is not considered to be age-related. A safety briefing and an updated safety briefing is always in order for any activity that has an element of risk. The testing process is inadequate. And the Venn diagram that I referred to that shows teenagers with their lack of experience overlapping with their lack of driving experience and life experience does not take into account that teen drivers are sharing the road with adult drivers who are acting super erratically, driving like they're in the place they come from, California drivers acting like they're in California. Teen drivers from Guam have to deal with that. The licensing process for the written test requires them to pass a 40-question test, which the opposite of people who have English troubles are smart teenagers who can pass that written test literally without reading the book. They could. They could figure it out on multiple choice strategies, on choosing the safest answer, and by doing common sense. And a certain amount of guessing would get them over the limit of 32 out of 40. The licensing process for private companies testing students is inadequate to ensure that they're ready to hit the road. And we don't like that breathless kind of stuff. We think that the test should be harder. It should not be customer friendly. And if we're looking to save money for drivers, should stop the privatized testing, put it back to government of Guam, and let the students spend their money on traffic safety training. That's what we provide, traffic safety training. And we don't think that it's only for teens, because ironically enough, the teen driver will need to be informed that older drivers are untrained, that they jump in car, make car go, which was basically the strategy for driving before 1994. You could jump in the car and make the car go, and that was pretty much good enough. When it ceased to be good enough, the Safe Streets Act was passed. And I recognize we need to make things a little bit better for adult drivers, but I don't think the testing process is inadequate, and I think that people can spend a few dollars on earnest professionals teaching them updated traffic safety training on Guam, maybe a safety briefing, maybe an updated briefing if driver ed sounds too condescending to adults. I think, that's enough for me to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. Thank you.
So again, that's Mr. Leslie Smith, and I appreciated his perspective on it, right? So he's right in the areas where he's talking about how it's the teenagers that got to worry about some of these adults that are driving, because they have some very bad habits, right? We do have Charlie on the line. Is he still there?
Charlie on the line?
Hafa Charlie, thanks for holding. I just wanted to finish that audio clip.
No, absolutely. Happy day, Pauly. How are you?
I'm
And
doing
Yuli,
well.
How are you?
It's Friday. I have no complaints. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Likewise. Happy Father's Day. Yes, a little rainy.
Yeah.
Roads are getting a little backed up in certain areas, but
okay.
Just a slight traffic report on that one. But just wanted to chime in real quick on the driver's license.
Yeah.
And there's 2 points that I just wanted to throw out there. One is, we're not looking at even the basics. I just wanted to come back and just, it's just hard enough to get a license. The process at DRT, right? Like, why are we not concentrating on making the process at the beginning stage of somebody applying, make it easy? I mean, why are we not concentrating on just the basics to be able to give out licenses in a way that should be, afforded to everybody? And so that was my first point, that we're not even, we're skipping everything. The little things we're not really concentrating. So one is, I don't know why we're not paying attention onto the difficulties that DRT has when it comes to the system and giving out license. And then the second one, the safety, and I agree with Mrs. Smith to a certain extent, that we should have a level of better understanding of the Guam road. And we have to say the Guam road, Pauly, because, the rules were made to fit some certain perfect scenarios. And what I mean is lights that work. I mean, there's no training when you're after the lights, power goes out, lights start blinking. There's some folks that may not know what is it? Do I go? You go. When it rains heavily, and you can't see the roads, which one's my lane? Do I stop? Do I pull over? Like, there's so many different scenarios. I agree in that sense that there is a safety, not just for those that are just becoming of age. I think, it's always good for us to continue to, refresh on our skills on driving the roads. But it's a different world that we live in. The world that we live in is not, it doesn't match up to the statutes of the law, or the rules, because, if you look at the rules, at a stop sign, well, I see that there's a pole, but there might have been a stop sign there.
Right. Yes. Unfortunately, too, there's no universal standard. It's almost just based on the officer that pulls you over will decide. And that's unfortunate because I've experienced it firsthand. When on the record, even DPW, I looked it up. when traffic lights are not operating properly, how should we treat it? On the record, it says we need to treat it as a four-way stop, right? Everybody comes to the complete stop, right? Because the lights are not operating properly. However, if you are the one that's not on the main road, you did come to a stop, and there might be a car far away, and it's like, okay, it is safe to make the left turn through the intersection. Well, when that car is speeding at 100 miles per hour, or let's just say 60 miles per hour, to be more realistic, and still hits you, did not come to a complete stop, when the officer gets there, they're going to say, well, you didn't have the right of way. Wait, the light is not operating properly. Why are you not going to ticket the car that did not stop at the intersection where the light was not operating properly?
Right, and that's what the foundation. I mean, the basis of both my points is that we're really not taking it. The different scenarios of things that happen here on the roads, or of all the accidents. If you look at the accidents, the fatal accidents, there's been several that are due to going off the road, not maintaining the lane, and hitting the medians, and a lot of that has to do with driving in the dark. It rains. They're not striped, and so again, I think that there has to be more attention to this. There has to be more attention to solving the little things, like the system to give out licenses. And number two, the laws and the rules should match up to the roads that we have here, and they don't. And so now we're pushing all this, and that, to that extent, is where I agree with Mr. Smith as far as we should all get a refresher, right? Because sometimes, whenever you get splashed with that bunch of water while you're driving, should you hit the brakes? Should you not hit the brakes? What is it that you do? I mean, those little things matter. Those, that 1 second of thought could potentially save somebody's life. So in that aspect, I agree. I just disagree with the angle that we're taking, because we're not addressing the issues, the basic issues here on the island. And I don't know why we're not doing that.
Because it's too hard.
That's the one thing I want to throw out.
The easy one is just do Senator Therese Terlai's bill, but that's not, you're correct, that's not solving the problem.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, like, we're adding another layer and another layer, and the foundation where all the cracks are at remain the same. And you can apply that to you can apply that to the hospital, GDOE, and for some reason we're not addressing the issues. And it kind of, it's getting frustrating, because it is election time, and everybody's kind of getting out there and saying what they need to say, but nobody's really going back to the foundation of what really is making things not work here. And I'm just baffled as to why we're not talking about it.
Right. I mean, I agree with Mr. Smith on the part where, especially if you're coming from off island, right, and you need a refresher. You need to at least be told realistically, listen, the roads of Guam are not like California, but you don't need to take a whole you don't need to take driver's education. You don't need to take a 2-week class. Maybe it's 1 hour. Maybe you take the class like, all right, now you're going to take the driver's test, the written test, right? If you can't prove that you ever had a driver's license before, but you're over 21. But to be treated like a teenager, because I believe the drivers, when we look at the past in our history, why did we do that? It was because there were too many 16-year-olds on the road that were driving unsafe. Not 30-year-olds, not 40-year-olds, 16-year-olds. But now you've created this whole bureaucracy, or this whole bracket where now everybody has to go take this driver's school. That's the part that I think needs to stop. But yes, absolutely, like what Mr. Smith has said, is take a quick refresher, take a basic understanding, because these grown adults have bad habits. The kids need to sit there for 2 weeks and learn, because they're about to be in there with the big fish. But I don't think a
No,
35-year-old needs to be sitting in class for 2 weeks.
No, agreed. And again, that was just those were my 2 points when it came to the bill, and I was listening to the hearing. So, those are the things that came to mind. So, just wanted to share that with you.
But you're correct, Charlie. I mean, we're solving something that is very easy to. You can introduce this bill. Theresa Lai should and whatnot, but that doesn't solve the real issue. So we cannot forget that we do have to create. The government must provide safer streets because people are not dying on these streets because they can't pass a driver's test. They're dying on these streets because they can't see the dang road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just had a friend come back who moved off island for about a year and a half, and you know he was in awe driving early in the morning that he's like, hey, I can't see the road, like and if when it rains, I don't know what. It's like, what's going on? And I said let's not go down that one because we'll spend days talking about this, but we got to get it fixed. We got to get safer roads.
Yes.
Not only, I mean, for ourselves, for everybody that lives on the island, and for those that visit and rent a car and drive around the island as well.
Yes.
So, so that safety is always got to be paramount for us. I mean, that's got to be the number one thing for us. So hopefully there's a different focus as we change administrations.
For sure. I'm watching every now and then because it started at 2 p.m. Every now and then I'm able to dip in and look at what they're doing over at the legislature. Senator Shango Matata has that oversight hearing on the Senlaku recovery. Have you looked into any of that? Have you been watching a little bit?
Yeah, I had been watching a little bit, and trying to better understand exactly the issue with that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I've been trying to do is better understand exactly where did it fall off. So that's what I've been trying to do.
I'm trying
on that one.
I'm trying to do this show and also keep track with what they're doing on the legislature too, but I'm missing so much. Because they're sharing the response and recovery timeline. So they started April 10th through the 12th on a couple things, and then they have a presentation where they are at in May and June with documentation and whatnot. But I mean, looking at this document and actually following along are two different things.
Yeah, and I think that from these type of documents and these type of oversight that are done, what's the result other than folks presenting the different cases and this is where we're at, these were the situations, these were the issues, this is what we're going to try to get fixed. But I haven't really seen anything come out from an oversight that has really had any teeth to mandate a significant change. That's another issue I have, right? I mean, we have these oversights and or even public hearings that tend to say the same thing over and over that we know already. But at what point are we going to mandate change? Within 10 days, within 2 weeks, show me a different presentation where it says you've implemented these changes. Right. How can we get these things fixed? Well, it's just really unfortunate that we're not really, proactive on that.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at this damage assessment highlight, right? And so, to be fair, I'm not listening. I'm just looking at the presentation slides. And so I'm curious, is this from Senlaku or is this from Mauar? Because they put signal damage entries, 126. Do we still have 126 up from Mauar? Because they haven't even replaced the ones from Mauar.
Yes, right.
There are so many bent signposts, or they're completely removed all over the island. And we haven't replaced those in forever. And so I hope they're not counting the ones that were damaged in Mauar. They should only be sharing what has been damaged from Senlaku.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they have the means to be able to do that, right? Differentiate between the ones that they put up. But I mean, I would say they're Mauar. I mean, just from driving around.
Yeah. There are so many, and there are even more inside the villages that have never been replaced.
Absolutely.
Yeah, from Mauar.
Yeah. So, and those things matter. The traffic. If you've seen, a lot of the traffic lights still don't have their covers, right? They're just kind of flat.
Yeah.
And so at an angle or at night, it could be difficult sometimes. It actually is. Yeah. And so it's pretty interesting, why we haven't been able, again, it comes down to funding, sourcing, procurement,
Well, I was watching another oversight on the recovery from Mauar, and it was actually Roy Kanata who was overseeing it, because at the time he had oversight over DPW. And I really wasn't impressed with that oversight hearing, to be honest. But the response from DPW then was that the federal government is going to replace these, right? Because these are going to come from the Federal Highway Division. And they had said in just a few months, right? And so months turned into over a year now. And where's the money from Mauar then to replace these streetlights and signs that they said they have? They have the money, and now they're going to, the Federal Highway Division is going to pay to replace all of that.
Right. No, exactly. And I don't understand why we're not calling them out. Why are we not calling out these directors from these different agencies, especially with DPW? I don't understand how we allow them to sit, how the senators allow them to sit in front of them and just kind of go through the motions. And I don't know.
Because they're giving them another timeline.
Maybe I look at things differently.
They're giving them another timeline. So when they sit in front of them, like, oh, 2 months from now we should have that. And then, 2 months they're not in front of them, so they don't have to respond after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Things that should be done within 6 months. How come you haven't done it? Well, this is the reason why we couldn't. Okay, well, GDOE is another one. At some point, we have to put onus on the superintendent. She's been in that seat for several months now, and she's held that position way back, even in interim. So at some point, we got to stop cutting and giving slack to these folks that are in leadership positions. If they're not able to do the task, they have to be removed. Plain and simple. I don't know why it's so hard to do that. I don't understand why we can't evaluate within just a couple of weeks, couple of months, whether they can do the job or not. It's not right for the taxpayers to be able to, to really, receive this from our government.
Fair enough, Charlie. Thanks so much for engaging with us.
Absolutely. Always
have a good weekend.
Thank you very much, Pauly.
Happy Father's Day again.
Yeah, happy Father's Day.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye. 3:41 in the hour. Let's do this because we're going to pivot, right? So there's just one more. Are you still there? So we can close the book on this one, unless somebody wants to chime in as well. This is Senator Therese Terlaye kind of, agreeing with what those have already said, testifying on her bill. So she says the bill, again, was not meant to reward illegal driving. She said the intent is to help adults who are driving legally under the current system and have no violations, not people who drove without a license. She said the bill language can be fixed to make that clear. Senators also discussed whether Guam's current driver's license laws have inconsistencies, including rules about who can accompany a learner's permit holder. And that's Senator Sean Gumentauta that was asking that and just getting more clarification. DMV is still reviewing some of these issues and may return with recommended changes. But I agree with Charlie, right? And I agree that this bill should be introduced, that they should look into it. But again, Charlie is correct that this is not going to solve the real systemic problem. The systemic issue is we don't have safe roads. So, and that is a DPW issue, not a DRT issue, not a driver's education issue. And so we'll take the break now. Oh, no, we'll play this and then we'll take the break. So again, this is Senator Therese Terlaye, and you can tune in to us on our YouTube. So if you're listening to our YouTube, if you're on our YouTube, you can also watch the segments that we pull from the Guam legislature.
I'm going to consider what your testimony says about even asking that they continue with classes and that I'm going to talk to DMV about that and see. I intended not to require that, but I do hear your testimony about safety briefings or something. As for the exam, making it more, I don't know, conducive for those with language barriers, I'm going to leave that to DMV. I think within their rules, they are able to either address that or not within their current rules. I mean, they would have to. So I'm sorry for the frustration that you and your friend have had, but I hope that they are being responsive to you and your letters. There's also testimony from GCC, pretty much similar. They're saying the bill balances expanding workforce participation and economic opportunity while preserving standards designed to protect motorists, passengers, pedestrians, and the broader community by maintaining competency-based testing requirements and limiting eligibility to adults 21 years of age and older with demonstrated records of responsible behavior. The measure attempts to provide an alternate pathway that acknowledges the realities facing many adult earners and workers. And they pretty much encourage, because of they're trying to create pathways for employment for so many of us on Guam. So I really do appreciate all the testimony. Thank you, Judge, for jumping in there. Oh, you have another comment? Yes.
I was really grateful that Maria spoke about persons who don't have English as their first language. There is an executive order. I think it may have been from the prior administration or maybe the current one. My time is different. It's called the Commission on Limited English Proficiency, and it's an executive order to all Government of Guam line agencies that in the programs that they operate, they must provide in their services accommodations for persons of limited English proficiency, LEP. In fact, the Superior Court of Guam, in the development of the DWI court, recognized that a great majority of the defendants that came into that treatment court were non-English speaking defendants. And as a result, the judiciary created the certified registry program for interpreters. I think it's called the interpreter program, and it continues to be operating today. So defendants, when they come into court, have an interpreter in their language so that they understand the criminal system. I would encourage Department of Revenue and Taxation to look up that executive order. I don't have the number. And to use that executive order to assist the agency with its regulations and its accommodations to persons of limited English proficiency.
This is just Masi, and thank you for, I think, implementing that program while you were there. And I've heard it's very, very helpful and useful. I mean, it's right. And so I'll leave that again to DMV. Yes, Ms. Pangani.
All right. We'll just take the break again on. Did you want to go to traffic? Yeah? We'll just do that. All right. I got it. We're both looking at each other like, you doing it? I'm doing it? How are we doing it? I'll take care of it. Let's see, helping you move forward on this Friday afternoon, 3:47 in the afternoon. Roads are wet, so definitely be safe out there, right? Mild congestion on Route 1. Definitely want to just keep a safe distance between you and the driver in front of you, the motorist in front of you, right? Continue to be safe out there. I know that they are working on a number of roadways. They have been throughout the week, right? And so when we look at the island-wide primary roads paving and pavement markings, that's near Route 4 and Route 10. They have been continuing all the way into the weekend. Contractor crews will be working at various locations within the intersection throughout the week. And so they may still be there tomorrow. They are scheduled between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. for pavement repair, milling, and paving. Once again, this is over at the Route 10 and Route 4 intersection in Orda, Chalampago. Or is that Manilao? I think that's still Orda, Chalampago, right?
Yeah, I would say Orda,
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, there is construction activities that are continuing along Route 1 all the way until, what is it? They should be packing up now, because between Route 27 and Juan Jacinto Road, that's right there in front of Hoffaday Market, they're installing pavement markings and markers until 4 p.m. today. So they should be clearing that up. There's no work scheduled for Saturday or Sunday in that area. Once again, helping you move forward on this Friday afternoon. That is Guam Auto Spot. Schedule that test drive today. Call them up, 478 Auto. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
Real conversations, real issues, real Guam. This is Wave 105, the talk of Guam.
You have some dough. It's lunchtime, but there's no way you would eat just dough for lunch, right? Well, the good thing is, I have some cheese. Your friend has some tomato sauce. This random guy on the street has pepperoni in his backpack. If we bring all these ingredients together, we end up with something much better than any of them alone. A savory pizza for lunch. But each of us has not only different ingredients, but also different opinions coming from our different life experiences. If we bring all these experiences and all these opinions together in friendly, civil conversation, we end up with opinions and ideas that are better than any of our individual opinions before. So if we want to come up with better ideas for a better world,
what we really need are civil, civic conversations. Pizzas. It's an American thing. AmericanThing.org.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
The road to Adelup continues. This time, we sit down with Republican candidates. Vice Speaker Tony Atta and E.J. Calvo. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 5th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here from $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. Triple J Mazda.
Introducing the all-new Subway Wraps. Now you can make any footlong a wrap. Light, delicious, and satisfying without weighing you down. Subway Wraps make fueling your day easier than ever with bold flavors and fresh ingredients. Try the cheesy garlic steak wrap today. Subway. Eat fresh, feel good.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
The road to Adelup is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Munilla Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. This is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Celebrate Dad in style at Roots Hills Grill House at Guam Plaza Resort. Join our special Father's Day brunch with prime cuts, seafood, and sweet treats. Adults $85, children $42.50. Make it a day Dad won't forget. Celebrate Father's Day with Power 98 and Wave 105 as we honor our first heroes. To enter, send a WhatsApp message or call in and share your funniest or most heartfelt dad story. Winners will be revealed from June 15th to June 19th, and you can win your dad a special bundle prize. Stay locked in to Power 98 and Wave 105. Brought to you by Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, and Cream and Butter.
Community conversation starts here. Wave 105, the talk of Guam.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back, Biba Betness. I'm getting a number of releases, and I'm trying to figure out which one to address first. And so I'm just trying to understand it better. So I'm really just reading this in real time. I was sent a notice from, it's a complaint for disqualification of a candidate. And it has been received by the Guam Election Commission already, allegedly, because I'm looking at a stamp and I'm looking at a signature. So it looks like this is coming from Jordan Pauly, who again is also running for Attorney General. Let me see here. So it looks like the complaint is because he's saying the Guam law requires the AG's office to be nonpartisan. Okay, yeah. Meaning candidates cannot declare a political party affiliation. And he says, according to Guam law, and he gives the law 5 GCA 30101B, and says that candidates for Attorney General must declare no political party affiliation. Candidates must sign a sworn statement certifying they have not declared a political party affiliation. And so he's claiming that Moylan is listed on the website of the Republican Attorneys General Association as a Republican Attorney General. And so that is, the acronym is RAGA. So RAGA, or RAGA, publicly promotes Moylan and encourages visitors to share this candidate. Moylan is allegedly registered with the Guam Election Commission as a Republican voter. Because of these affiliations, Pauly argues that Moylan's sworn certification stating he has not declared a political party affiliation is false. And so he's asking the Guam Election Commission to disqualify Moylan from the 2026 Attorney General election ballot for violating Guam's nonpartisan requirements. and then also refer the matter for a possible perjury investigation, arguing that Moylan may have made false statements under oath when filing his candidacy paperwork. And then he is showing, he's basically got a bunch of photos of these AGs under this RAGA, right? And he goes, here are the receipts, because it's a whole list of these AGs associated with the Republican Attorneys General Association. And on what he has sent in this complaint is a photo of a number of AGs, and AG Moylan is on there representing Guam. Okay. He also submitted a signed declaration saying that, again, he is a registered Guam voter and a candidate for Attorney General. He personally viewed the RAGA website multiple times. He observed Moylan being listed as a Republican Attorney General. He believes that listing conflicts with Guam's requirement that Attorney General candidates be nonpartisan. Then he also shows the actual page in this on the RAGA website. It says Douglas Moylan Guam, share this candidate, and then there's an email zip code. I also agree to whatever, and then it says paid for by Republican Attorneys General Association. So there again is the complaint from Jordan Pauloon, who again also is running for Attorney General. And so I don't know. We're going to try to reach out to... I already reached out to the director, Maria Pangilinan, and let's see if we can get... I'm not going to ask... should AG Moylan be disqualified? But I am going to ask if she can confirm these rules, right? I am going to ask... And I'll probably just send the questions. Maybe she's not available, and see if she can respond to us before 6 p.m. And so, can a candidate be disqualified from the 2026 Attorney General election ballot if they had violated Guam's nonpartisan requirements? And so, just confirmation, what is Guam's nonpartisan requirements for AG? So... we'll see. We'll see if we get a response before we get out of here at 6 p.m. 4 o'clock on the dot. KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam. Biba Betness.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The agreement to end the Iran war has been signed and is taking effect. The U.S. blockade lifted and oil tankers moving through the Strait of Hormuz. But the deal calls for further negotiations to add details, particularly regarding Tehran's nuclear program. Vice President J.D. Vance to lead the U.S. side.
We think these technical negotiations are going to start sometime this weekend. That's still the plan, but that could change because it's not an easy country, Iran, to get out of, and so we're trying to figure out exactly when that's going to happen.
The White House later said Vance would not, in fact, be leaving for Switzerland Thursday, citing difficult logistics. Iran's supreme leader has endorsed direct negotiations with the U.S. The tentative deal also includes a call for an end to the war in Lebanon, where Israel's been fighting the militant group Hezbollah, though those two are not parties to the agreement. Meanwhile, Karen Shamas reports.
Over the past 2.5 years, Israel has taken control of swaths of Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria that amount to its largest expansion of militarily occupied lands in decades. It's an area larger than many major cities, roughly 386 square miles or 1,000 square kilometers, and Israel has said it plans to stay indefinitely. Israel calls these areas buffer zones and says they are needed to prevent future attacks by militant groups. These areas are not new borders, which require an agreement between two countries, but many fear that these changes could become long-lasting. I'm Karen Shamas.
The remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur are battering southeastern states with heavy rain, sparking flash flood and tornado warnings along the Gulf Coast. And Haya Pajwani reports.
New data from the West Health Gallup Affordability Index shows that only half of U.S. adults could afford their health care and had access to quality care last year. Concerns about affording health care in the year ahead were also at a record highs. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
This is AP News. The Obama Presidential Centers opened in Chicago.
It was an extraordinary gathering.
Hi, I'm Bruce, and
From Bruce Springsteen to Bono and The Edge. A 2008 Obama campaign theme song. The ex-president appeared to wipe a tear as wife Michelle spoke.
You made the hardest job in the world look like a walk in this beautiful park.
And when he took the mic,
I hope this center will serve as an affirmation of just how special, how precious our democracy truly is.
moments later, another campaign theme from Stevie Wonder. Both Presidents Obama and Clinton sang along, smiling, as George W. Bush and Joe Biden sat nearby. I'm Sagar Meghani.
With more news at apnews.com, I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
KGUM-FM, Dedido, the talk of Guam. This is Wave 105.1 FM, a Glimpses Media radio station.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. They were two teenage boys with vivid imaginations and a love of science fiction when they changed our culture forever. In 1933, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created a costume superhero with a secret identity, and 5 years later, Superman debuted in Action Comics #1. For almost 90 years, the last son of Krypton has fought for truth, justice, and the American way.
What is a hero? My answer was that a hero is someone who commits a courageous action without considering the consequences. Now my definition is completely different. I think a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles.
Siegel and Shuster created a whole new genre of fiction that led to the pantheon of superheroes, including Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern. Characters who have represented the best of our American values for almost a century.
In a world that commands us to sprint through life at breakneck speed, there is a profound power in choosing to slow down. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for June 19th.
While we celebrate World Sauntering Day as a fun excuse to ease up on our morning commute, it actually connects us to a radical 19th century French fashion statement. In the 1840s, wealthy urban wanderers known as flaneurs took to the crowded streets of Paris to protest the frantic pace of the Industrial Revolution. To prove they refused to be rushed by modern society, these eccentric gentlemen began walking pet turtles on leashes through the city's upscale shopping arcades. Because a tortoise moves at an agonizingly slow crawl, it forced the walker to completely downshift their pace, transforming a simple stroll into a theatrical act of mindfulness. Today, challenge the frantic rush of your schedule, step outside without a destination, and let a turtle set your speed.
Okay, now imagine a whole city of people with turtles on a leash.
So, if you're walking down the street and all these turtles are coming at you, what do you call it?
I do not know the answer to that.
Probably not a stampede, though, huh?
Probably not a stampede. We are also celebrating Juneteenth and National Watch Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a Canine Companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia, who quickly developed a very strong bond. Together, we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together, we pick vegetables, and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Do you hear that?
And that. And that. Those are the sounds of a healthy and vibrant community. And to this United Way volunteer, nothing sounds better. They're the sounds of children being given greater chances to succeed in school. The sounds of neighbors receiving the support needed to overcome challenges, both big and small. They're the sounds of families gaining access to quality healthcare and nutritious food for their tables. And they're the sounds of members of our community who've benefited from United Way's financial education programs. See, wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a United Way. People working together to respond and growing the good for everyone. United is the way. So join us by getting involved or giving back. Learn more at unitedway.org.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey. Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, may I ask a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog.
Great. Do you have a pool outside?
Nope, just a big old backyard.
Nice. Another question. Are there any unlocked guns in the home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's just talk about what we can bring for dessert.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
My name is Erica. My son, Kason, is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burnt. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide. He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kason is still here. Go online right now to loveshriners.org.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. Let their story unfold and gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. Hire skills first. Learn why at tearthepapperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
We are all for first-time guests and longtime friends. All for First Light and Starlight. For road trips and trail runs. All for mountaintops and monuments. River bends and battlefields. We're all for showing up and giving back. To protect, to preserve, to pass it on. All parks depend on us, and we're all for parks. Join us at nationalparks.org/allforparks.
Hi, human. I'm a micro monster, swimming around in your plastic water bottle. But I can't wait to swim in your bloodstream soon.
Microplastics are micro monsters.
Drink me. Wait, what are you doing?
But you can fight back by using glass or metal reusable water bottles.
No!
Don't let microplastic micro monsters invade your body. Find more ways to fight back at stopmicromonsters.org.
Where the coffee is strong, the opinions are stronger, and the vibe is always local. Wave 105, Glimpses Media.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
KGUM-FM, Wave 105.1, the talk of Guam. Right now it's 4:12 on this Juneteenth. This is Yuli here in studio with the host of the BrightSide, Mr. Pauly Suba. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, welcome back. We do want to thank our sponsors, MicroPack. Remember, Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at MicroPack. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J Ford, get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com and get pre-approved instantly. And GTA, we start with you, as well as Chili's Grill and Bar at Chili's. More life, great food, and memories happen here. Welcome back, 671-922-1051 or 1052. We are online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. Biba Betness. So we're moving on to another bill that also had its public hearing yesterday. By the way, I sent my questions over to Guam Election Commission, so we'll see if we get a response between now and 5 or even 6 p.m. I mean, obviously they close at 5. See if we get any response from Guam Election Commission regarding whether or not A.G. Moylan should be disqualified for running for AG. But until then, we will focus again on Bill 280. And so this is Senator Shango Matautau's bill. It would make it a felony to threaten, intimidate, harass, stalk, retaliate against, or publicly share personal information about judges, justices, marshals, police officers, probation officers, and other peace officers if the purpose is to influence, intimidate, or punish them for doing their jobs. This hits close to home in Guam because the name Judge Andrew Wilkinson is still a very known name to the court system here in Guam, right? And so Chief Justice Fader of Maryland, he testified remotely. And so he shared that judges are not asking for special treatment, but they face unique dangers because they make decisions that affects people's lives. And he described several attacks on judges. And one of them was the attack on Judge Wilkinson's life. And so this wasn't in Guam, but he was born in Guam. And so let me find one of these articles from back in the day. This was a Maryland judge born in Guam in 1971 was shot and killed in what law enforcement said was a targeted attack, prompting the judiciary of Guam to issue a statement mourning the loss and raising awareness on strengthening judicial security. So this is from the Guam PDN, dated October 21, 2023. So he, at the time, was a Washington County Circuit Court Associate Judge, right? This Washington County, I think, is a county out of Maryland. And so he was killed at his home on October 19, hours after he ruled against a suspect in a child custody case. And so it was stated that this was a targeted attack, right? And they provide the name of who the individual was. Chief Justice at the time is Chief Justice Robert Torres, right? Said in a statement, the Judiciary of Guam is deeply saddened to learn of the loss of Washington County Circuit Court Judge Andrew Wilkinson. Torres said, although Wilkinson held court thousands of miles away, his roots in Guam bind him to the island, and he will forever be woven into the fabric of our community. And so the statement further stated, we honor Judge Wilkinson as a distinguished jurist, known for the profound influence he had on those around him through legal practice, his involvement in the church, and coaching youth soccer. Torres said Wilkinson's tragic death is a solemn reminder of the ongoing threat and attacks faced by judges and their families. So when you look at this bill, we'll just share what Senator Shango Matautau said about it, because again, it's his bill, and he will share his opening statement on it. Again, Bill 280.
To briefly introduce the measure, judicial officers and peace officers have a role in our society. While many may not like some of the outcomes of their respective work, these men and women uphold a strict adherence to the years of their training and the code of conduct that each swears to uphold when they put on a robe or when they don a uniform adorned specifically with a metal badge. Our community has come to see that while there is an important role they serve, there is a misconception that their titles define them more than their humanity does. They are our neighbors. They are our family members. They are much like us, whether some may not like it or not. This policy comes as acts of violence against judicial officers and peace officers are on the rise. Guam is not immune. I am a believer that due process is an important right we have as Americans. It is also this particular right that judicial officers and peace officers swear to protect. Madam Chair, Bill 280 was crafted to protect our island community and the men and women that protect it. I want to thank our friends of our sister branch of the Judiciary of Guam for helping us put Bill 280 together. The bill creates new felony offenses. Disseminating personal information on judicial officers and peace officers will soon come at a price. In our nation of laws, free speech does have some limits. This bill is careful to require criminal intent, targeting those who act to harass or intimidate, not those who speak to inform or criticize. Nothing in Bill 280 is intended to shield judicial officers or peace officers from lawful public scrutiny or accountability. Bill 280 fills an important gap in current Guam law. Today, you will hear testimony about threats. You will hear testimony about law enforcement. You will hear testimony about men and women harmed, the families of which remain forever scarred by the actions of the few. Even one closer to home. In our society, things like this happen. Madam Chair and colleagues, we need to protect judicial officers and peace officers, all of them. If there is any violation of this policy proposal, there will be a consequence that I believe is severe. Our legal system and our public safety depend on this policy. I stand with them in this particular effort to protect their work and protect all of the people of Guam. With that, Madam Chair, I look forward to the presentation this morning, including amendments that may be needed to strengthen Bill 280 moving forward. This is Mossy, Madam Chair, for the time.
All right, there you go. Again, that is Senator Shanga Matautau introducing Bill 280 during a public hearing. And so we have somebody on the line? Yeah? Hafa Frank, you're on the air.
Hey, Hafa
Hafa Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you too. No, just listening about that bill. Yeah, I like that bill. You just have to make sure that it's used in the correct way and don't go after people, that didn't cross the line and use it in the wrong way.
Right, freedom of speech.
People still got the right to protest. People still got the right to say what they want to say without threatening anybody.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not used in another manner, because it can be easily twisted.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I want to see more laws on accountability on government officials. That's what I want to see. I want to see laws that's going to hold people accountable when something goes wrong with the government, lose their job, pay back money. I want to see accountability. I think that the employees at the government of Guam got a lot of protection. And maybe it's time to take a look at that and start, putting government workers that abuse their position in check.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like every time somebody does something wrong, we give them a big check 2-3 years later and reinstate them. That needs to be corrected. I love our law enforcement. They protect us. They protect our families and whatnot. They're big boys. They can protect themselves. I think I want to see more accountability on the other side. I keep holding the people accountable for everything, but they don't hold themselves accountable. This government doesn't hold themselves accountable. They want to hold everybody else accountable. It's ridiculous. Thank you. Thank you, Pauline.
No
you
problem.
have a great
You
weekend.
too.
Huh?
You too, Frank.
I want to see more laws and that, and they'll get my book. I'm tired of this no accountability. Nobody knows jack. We're going to have to pay back a lot of federal funds, Paulie. I've been calling him ever since La Morena, telling these people, don't mess around with the federal funds because we're going to have to pay that back. Years and years I've been saying it. Looks like it's coming to fruit now. You know, we need accountability on the government side. That's what we need. Thank you, Paulie.
All right, take care. Yeah, no, I agree with Frank. I think we can do both, right? Again, we can do both. Yeah, we don't see. Well, we have seen a couple. I mean, there was the couple bills with the public auditor, right? However, I don't think that that's even has enough teeth, right? Where the public auditor would demand that the documents be provided to the OPA in a timely manner, because it's holding up the budget too, right? And if not, then they get fined out of their own personal pocket, right? And so not out of the agency. And I agree with Frank that those things, if you are in a position of authority, then you need to be held to a higher standard. You just do. I mean, even when it comes to police brutality, any kind of corruption. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with Frank. But also, I think we can do both. We can introduce stronger laws to protect those that protect us. Because, again, like just based on this bill with judges and those in the court system, too, they are doing their job, right? And so if you don't like the judgment, then obviously, regardless, you should not, you should not, you shouldn't assault anybody, right? And so when Frank said people should still be able to criticize, right? And that's kind of where Senator Therese Terlaye is going. And that's where I wanted to go next, because there still is the constitutional right of freedom of speech. And so some people can, even on social media, can just be like, hey, go to hell. And people might take that literally. It's like, oh yeah, that's a threat. Well, calm down, sir and ma'am. Right? And so you don't agree with the judgment. You should still be able to voice your opinion freely and not be afraid of retaliation. And for that point, I agree with Frank for sure. And so we get clarity from that when Senator Therese Terlaye asked this question.
But he also pointed out, this bill is not about preventing criticism of judges or limiting free speech. And as you mentioned about intent, we get email all the time, and I see it posted online as well. There are criticisms of the judiciary, and I don't want that to be illegal, right? And so I just want to make sure that, it says with the purpose to harass, intimidate, or influence. Influence seems a little bit vague. I know you have experience interpreting these things. And then another portion, it says conduct reasonably calculated to alarm, right? And I just don't want this freedom of speech to be impaired because, some of them just are unhappy with their rulings and they say it out loud and they say the reasons why. And I think that's fair, right? And we want to allow that.
Yes, thank you, Senator Terlaye, if I can speak on that. And of course, this is not an intent to infringe on anyone's First Amendment rights. That is first and foremost as part of our guarantees under the Constitution. So if you're speaking only about, for example, posting on Facebook, social media, or even comments on the news, that is absolutely a First Amendment right. Where it escalates to the point of a violation of this particular proposed law is where the intent is clearly to harass, to influence. We cannot be influenced. We instruct our juries Don't be influenced by sympathies, prejudices, things of that nature, or allowing any implicit biases to enter into your judgment. We took that oath. And so, of course, if there's someone who has a comment about the court's performance, where there is all the time, as we know, that is not a violation of this particular law.
So the bill presumes that increased penalty or special crime is going to deter. And I guess we make that assumption with many of the bills we pass here as well, that or hope that it will deter. So I do hope it will deter. I note with interest that you point out the death of one of our attorneys because of, or it was our understanding at the time that was because of, her representation of her client in a domestic situation. And I note the incidences of those who are victims of domestic violence in the court system also suffering as repeat victims for, these cases are so volatile, as you said. And sometimes those on pretrial release, right, are the perpetrators. But so this bill, in your opinion, does it cover attorneys?
Not specifically, it does not. But I think there are the general laws that would prohibit stalking, terrorizing. Those would apply in general to anyone other than a judicial officer or law enforcement. It's just that as a matter of course, when a judge comes in and what we don't want is for a judge to be influenced by fear of someone coming in and threatening their safety, their life, or the lives of their family members simply because we don a robe. As a practicing attorney, could something like that have happened? As you yourself, Senator Chalahi was a practicing attorney. Could that have happened to an attorney? Of course. It's not something that fortunately, it is a rarity, but it's not something that is beyond the scope. And we can't anticipate every single act of an individual to have, occur. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen regardless of whether or not there is this law in place. All
right. So you're saying that those who are not covered by this act, like attorneys or anyone else, the victims of the crimes who are in the judicial system and become re-victimized, that those they would be addressed, or their deterrence would be just the existing laws.
That's correct.
And right.
Unless the legislature so choose to extend it to other professions, of course.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So again, Bill 280 would make it a felony crime to threaten, intimidate, harass, stalk, retaliate against, or publicly share personal information about judges, justices, marshals, police officers, probation officers, and other peace officers if the purpose is to influence, intimidate, or punish them for doing their jobs, right? And so if you absolutely have your First Amendment right? Freedom of speech. So you can say, you got it completely wrong, whatever, However, they do give an example of doxing, publishing personal information such as home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, and information about family members, because you can intimidate not just the officer or the judge, but an entire family will not feel safe. And so they gave an example of what pizza doxing is. I've never heard of this. However, I do agree that this is a form of intimidation. It's when somebody orders a pizza to your home late at night, your judge maybe, and the message isn't about the pizza. The message is, we know where you live, right? And so in some cases, pizzas have been sent to judges' children. They talk about how a murdered son's name was used on some pizza orders to intimidate judges. And so that was especially painful because criminals were using this judge's son's murder to terrorize other judges. And so when you can make those connections, obviously people are innocent until proven guilty, but people are also not stupid. And so when you make the investigate and you can make these connections, then therefore you can charge them with these crimes. And I would say it should be the same for any individual. Me as a talk show host, right? I'm critical of so many people. I definitely would want the police to look into somebody trying to intimidate me or my family. I'll still eat the pizza, though. But, you know, I mean, because I also know my place, too, though. I want to be respectful. I'm not here to attack anybody's character. I really just want to be critical of the issue, right? But I also know that we have freedom of speech too. So, but I do know what intimidation looks like. I do know what harassment looks like. And I believe that law enforcement knows what that looks like too, and they can make those connections. So, 4:34 in the afternoon. Wave 105 will take the break. There's just one more bill that they also had a public hearing on. It was one after another that I want to touch on. We'll unpack it on the other side of these. This hearing happened yesterday, and we just never got to it because there were so many other things that we were focusing on as well, like the U.S. territory governors that were in front of the U.S. Senate, and we definitely broke that down yesterday. So we're just catching up. And then, of course, I can't keep track of what is going on in the Guam legislature now with the oversight hearing on the recovery efforts of Typhoon Sinlaku, with Office of Civil Defense was there, DPW was there, some military members were there as well. Looked more like National Guard, but I saw some presentation slides, but it has been difficult to follow along. And so that's definitely something that if we don't catch up with on today's show, we will definitely cover it on Monday. So we'll take the break. This is Wave 105. Coming up very soon is we'll hook you up with another traffic report. That's brought to you by Guam Auto Spot in just a few.
Where the coffee is strong, the opinions are stronger, and the vibe is always local. Wave 105, Glimpses Media.
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. We the People hasn't always meant all the people. It took 144 years after our nation's founding for women to win the right to vote. The suffragette movement in the U.S. began in 1848 with a women's rights convention. But back then, the idea of women being able to vote seemed too extreme to some of the attendees. Susan B. Anthony became the leader of the movement in the 19th century.
It was we the people. Not we, the white male citizens, nor yet we, the male citizens, but we, the whole people, who formed the Union, and we formed it, not to give the blessings of liberty, but to secure them.
Not to the half of ourselves and the half of our posterity, but to the whole people.
By 1918, 15 states had granted women the right to vote. A year later, Congress voted in favor of all women in the U.S. having that right. And in 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified by a majority of the states. Today, we take that right for granted, and women have run for some of the highest offices in the land, including president.
Jack here. I just want to make sure you've got two hands on the wheel when I tell you my Munch Better deals are just $5.99. Get a Junior Jumbo Jack meal or a Junior Chicken Sandwich meal for just $5.99. Okay, now let your hands steer you to Jack. Welcome to Jack in the Box. Plus tax, limited time only. Price and participation may vary.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
The road to Adelude continues. This time, we sit down with Republican candidates. Vice Speaker Tony Atta and E.J. Calvo. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 5th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. Stay informed and hear their vision for Guam's future. Wave 105 is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
All right, let's see how we can help you on this Friday afternoon. Help you move forward through these roadways, right? Mild congestion in the Dededo area near the Micronesia Mall and Guam Regional Medical City, taking you past the Dededo Flea Market. Things kind of clear up for you right around where you come out of Harmon Loop. Harmon Loop actually looks pretty decent. I mean, if you're on Route 16 coming down the overpass, there are delays trying to make that right turn onto Harmon Loop, but then once you're on it, you should be. That looks good. I would actually recommend that if you are trying to get over to like the Jigo area, right, and you're coming from the overpass, I would take that right turn onto Harmon Loop instead of continuing towards Fatima or even towards Route 1. I think you can beat those that do continue their way on through Route 16 and use Fatima or use 1. I think if you make that right turn onto Harmon Loop, you'll get there a whole lot faster. And I also think that's even faster than using Alligator Road, because some people will use Alligator and go through Machechi, but then now you're stuck in that long line of traffic trying to get back onto 1. So Harmon Loop is your best bet, at least for 4:39 in the afternoon. Once again, helping you move forward on this Friday afternoon, Guam Auto Spot. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
The road to Adelup is here. And this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Torius Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Hungry and need gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill-up of $30 gas at any Guam mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy summer win. Fuel up, open the app, and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register today. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
Half a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas to Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
Close your eyes and open your senses. Introducing the all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5. Thoughtfully redesigned with a refined interior, larger 15.6-inch touchscreen display, advanced connectivity, and Mazda's signature driving experience. Enjoy elevated comfort, intuitive technology, and craftsmanship designed around you. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 Sport is available from $29,995 or just $198 per paycheck. Get pre-approved instantly at triplejguam.com.
Conversations that matter. Community that listens. Wave 105, the talk of Guam. A Glimpse's media radio station.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
right, welcome back. Biba Badness. 4:42 in the afternoon. Welcome back to the Bright Side here on Wave 105. Okay, so the other hearing was on Bill 324, Senator Telotadigui's bill. It would give Guam's Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission the ability to accept late applications from crime victims if there is a valid reason or good cause for missing the current filing deadline. And right now, victims generally have 18 months from the date of the injury or death to apply for compensation. If they miss that deadline, the commission usually must deny the application, even if the victim had a legitimate reason. This bill would not eliminate the 18-month deadline. Instead, it would allow the commission to make exceptions in special circumstances. And so one of the commissioners is Miss Jane Flores. And so she was sharing an example as to, and not only that, but even Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson also gave an explanation. But she had shared that it was like an administrative reason. And so that shouldn't be a reason why they should not receive their compensation. She says allowing good cause exceptions would reduce unnecessary hardship, make the process more compassionate, help victims who were unable to apply on time because of trauma or extraordinary circumstances. She said, no deadline erases trauma. Victims and surviving family members continue to struggle emotionally long after crime occurs. And because of that reality, she believes the commission should have flexibility to consider legitimate late applications. And so because they're held to that timeline, even for whatever it could be, it can be a legitimate reason. Maybe they give the example of leaving off island because they're getting away from the trauma and then trying to get back on time and miss it by a couple days. They cannot assist because they're held by that date. So Senator Shango Matautal, he has a couple questions, and they talk a little bit about that because he also goes, well, maybe we should move the date from 18 months to maybe even 5 years. And Elizabeth Barrett Anderson kind of explains like, no, let's keep the 18 months, but please allow the commission to have some flexibility. And these are the reasons why.
I know that BBMR said that the measure is administrative in nature, but when we think about the kind of work that it takes to go into good cause claims, is it going to need a little bit more? Do you think?
It's not a monetary concern. It's a factual determination that we will inquire as to why a victim missed the 18 months. In my testimony, I gave a very recent example of an administrative error, and it was no fault of the victim. So things like that, it could be situations where someone has left Guam. They were so traumatized by a rape or a domestic violence incident, they want safety. They leave Guam, but eventually come back home. But they still have medical bills at Guam Memorial Hospital or GRMC that those hospitals will still go after them for. And the good cause would allow us to consider those kinds of situations.
Thank you for that. I just want to get for the record again, regarding the two applications that were denied by the CICC on August 26, 2025, because they were filed beyond the statute of limitations, if publicly disclosable, could either or both of these cases qualify for compensation if the bill's provisions are approved? And for the record, would the bill apply prospectively, and I think you might have mentioned it, and therefore exclude all potentially eligible cases filed prior to the bill's effective date?
Right. This bill and my request to have it apply to current applications would not impact decisions of denials last year or in prior years, it would be a policy decision of this legislature to guide the commission whichever way you want. I can let you know of the roughly 200 claims that have been brought before the commission in the last 10 years. At least 11 to 13 have been denials based on the statute of limitations.
Okay, thank you. And then just one last question. Do you think that the legislature should set a maximum outer time limit with good cause to provide some finality, a limit of 5 years, perhaps?
I think 5 years is, like I said, there are probably just 2 states that don't have any limitations, but a majority do have some form of limitations, anywhere from 18 months, and we followed Hawaii, so ours is following Hawaii. California is 3 years, but they're a bigger state. I think for Guam, setting the 18 months and leaving that there, and allowing victim advocates of the Office of the Attorney General, the DART, the victim advocates at GPD, to encourage victims who come into the criminal justice system to say, hey, we have a Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission, apply, there's 18 months. So what Commissioner Flores and I would like to do is to do outreach to Guam Police Department, a lot of the community organizations here, to encourage victims to understand the 18 months. It's not from the magistrate, it's not from the indictment, it's the date of the injury or death that you have 18 months. But if for some reason there is good cause consideration, I believe we are a small enough community to work with that 18 months.
All right, thank you so much for that and your frankness about the time frame. So that was my only questions, Madam Chair. Thank you again for being with us this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, and then even earlier on, Judge Elizabeth Barrett Anderson's testimony says the commission has operated for about 10 years. Nearly $800,000 has been awarded to victims during that period, and the bill itself does not create a new funding source and does not request additional appropriations. So historically, the fund has received money from sources such as criminal fines and penalties imposed by the courts, certain court assessments and fees paid by convicted offenders, restitution-related collections, and other statutorily designated revenues. And so that's where we get the funding for the Criminal Injuries Compensation Program. 4:50 in the afternoon. I think I saw something coming in from Senator Shangu Matautau's office. The oversight hearing must be over, yeah, because the release just came out. Following today's joint oversight hearing regarding Typhoon Sinlaku expenditures and after-action reports, the joint oversight hearing was arranged in coordination with Senator Chris Duenas, chairman of the Committee on Finance and Government Operations. And so, whose quote is this? I guess this is his quote. This is Senator Shangu Matautau. I join Chairman Duenas and our colleagues in recognizing the first responders, village mayors and vice mayors, emergency managers, support staff, and leadership of our departments and agencies, Guam's private sector, and our federal and military partners for doing their part to keep our families and communities safe. We are grateful for their service and the sacrifices they and their families made to prepare for and help our island respond to Typhoon Sinlaku. Our decision to assemble relevant stakeholders for today's joint oversight hearing is rooted in Guam's legislature's responsibility to ensure detailed accounting of taxpayer resources that have been prioritized for Typhoon Sinlaku response and recovery efforts. The Emergency Management and Finance Committees agree that our collective response to future disasters will be impacted by our ability today to manage critical public resources allocated for Typhoon Sinlaku. On April 11 of this year, I voted yes. Again, this is Senator Shangu Matautau. Yes, on $25 million for Typhoon Sinlaku. I did so without hesitation because our families needed resources moving before that storm made landfall, not after. The pre-landfall appropriation of $25 million was a completely different approach than the one our predecessors in 2023 took in appropriating local funds in response to Typhoon Mawar. Yeah, that was a cluster, and I can't even finish that phrase. I remember, I commend the legislature, the mayors, the executive branch for working together in preparation to Typhoon Sinlaku. I think that we learned a lot from Mawar, right? And we learned that we really do have to, it has to be a one government approach, including Joint Region Marianas, including the National Weather Service team. Like, I know that they're federal officials, right? That whole Tizin weather team, the Islet twins. But we know that Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and the administration takes what they say very seriously. And so I want to say, and I don't remember if it was on the record or not, but I want to say that it was actually the Islet brothers that convinced her to hold off on declaring condition of 4 on one day, and she held off like another 18 hours, right? Again, I don't know if that was on the record or not, but just based on following what the Islet brothers were saying and where we were in terms of where the storm's location was at the time, that we're not out of the woods yet. This is what Landon and Brandon were saying at that time, right? And so it looked like we could have went into Core 4 like on a Thursday, but we didn't. We waited till like 12 p.m. on Friday to do so. And some people were like, woke up Friday morning and was like, it's nice out. I mean, it was still kind of gloomy and whatnot, but like, why aren't we in Core 1 yet? Because Route 1, you can look at it yourself. There's, you can put a beach towel down right on Marine Corps Drive, right? And so that still needed to be taken care of. I've never seen anything like it. Not even Typhoon Mawar. We didn't see anything like that in Typhoon Mawar. We didn't see all of the sand and debris and coral on the other side of Route 1 in Mawar. This was just a different beast. I mean, obviously the winds weren't as strong for us in Guam. Look at our brothers and sisters are continuing to face so many struggles in the CNMI. There are people in the CNMI that are here in Guam right now just trying to take a break from the recovery of Typhoon Sinlaku because they don't have power. They don't have the same amenities still to this day. And they're just coming to Guam to just get a breather, right? To stay at a hotel or stay at an Airbnb, eat at a decent restaurant, and get away from all of that because they have been working very hard since Typhoon Sinlaku. So I didn't get the opportunity to watch, obviously, because their oversight hearing took place at the same time we started our show at 2 p.m. But based on what Sean Gumatauta was saying in his release, he said, during last week's Special Economic Service meeting, I watched this one, and we shared a lot of that information on the BrightSide too. BBMR informed the Guam legislature that approximately $9.9 million of the $25 million appropriated for Sinlaku was held in reserve. The administration, through BBMR, believes that typhoon expenditures have significantly tapered off and that the close to $10 million in unused funds could either be reassigned for other priorities or deposited back into the rainy day fund. And I remember Lester saying, I encourage you to put this money back into the rainy day fund. That'll get you closer to $80 million, which is the cap. And I think you can go over, but there is a mandate that we must get it to 80 million. And so we put that 10 million the 9.9, we get it somewhere like, if I remember them both agreeing, somewhere around $77 million. And so they're pretty close to the 80 million mandate, right? And Senator Chris Duenas last week was sharing that, yeah, he agrees with that. So I don't know if anything changed between that conversation and what they just went over at that oversight. He says, before we move a single dollar of Sinlaco reserve funds, we owe the public an explanation of that pattern, and we owe ourselves a reckoning with whether our appropriation process is keeping pace with our agency's actual capacity to execute. Determining the adequacy of the nearly 50-year-old policy authorizing the governor to use up to $250,000 for emergency expenses is a good starting point for potential policy updates moving forward. I really appreciated, again, the process. We watched it in real time. It was public. We were able to watch these sessions and see how they were going to authorize monies and for what for. They agreed to the $25 million, right? And it would spread not just for the preparation, but also for the recovery. And we saw that money was given to mayors, like $250,000 went to all mayors. Did they spend it all? I mean, we're also watching and paying attention to the mayor's council meeting, and the answer is no, they didn't. Some of the mayors would like to keep some of that money too, because, I mean, recovery is also, mitigation is part of recovery. It's also part of preparation for the next typhoon. So, I mean, I don't disagree with either one, agree or disagree, because I see both sides. I see the point of letting the mayors keep whatever money that they didn't spend to go towards mitigation, to prepare for the next storm. That's, to me, that's prudent. I think that's responsible. But I also think that I also don't disagree if they say, well, you didn't spend it, so we need to get it back because we have today's problems. There are many. So we need that money that you did not spend, and then we'll go through this process again. Because I didn't see anything wrong. I commend them again. I hope that they do this all the time, that they do it this way, because what's the alternative? It can't be how they were reactive to Mauar. It can't be after the fact, because you're gonna piss off Mayor Alec, and you don't want to piss that guy off. It's hard to make him mad too. He's such a positive guy, but if it can flip though, and we saw it in Mauar, right? And I still remember it. I think a lot of people remember that. All right, 5:01 in the afternoon. We will take this break. On the other side, some good news for a change, right? So I actually have a video that we'll play. It's the mayor of New York, Mamdani. It was today or a couple hours ago was the parade for the New York Knicks. 53 years it took for them to win an NBA championship. And you can argue that New York City is a basketball city. I don't think that they love any other team more than they love the New York Knicks. And I felt that listening to the speech and watching the parade. So we'll do that on the other side of these right here on Wave 105 KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.
News, I'm Ben Thomas. The agreement to end the Iran war has been signed and is taking effect. The U.S. blockade lifted and oil tankers moving through the Strait of Hormuz. But the deal calls for further negotiations to add details, particularly regarding Tehran's nuclear program. Vice President J.D. Vance to lead the U.S. side.
We think these technical negotiations are going to start sometime this weekend. That's still the plan, but that could change because it's not an easy country, Iran, to get out of, and so we're trying to figure out exactly when that's going to happen.
The White House later said Vance would not, in fact, be leaving for Switzerland Thursday, citing difficult logistics. Iran's supreme leader has endorsed direct negotiations with the U.S. The tentative deal also includes a call for an end to the war in Lebanon, where Israel's been fighting the militant group Hezbollah, though those two are not parties to the agreement. Meanwhile, Karen Shamas reports.
Over the past 2.5 years, Israel has taken control of swaths of Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria that amount to its largest expansion of militarily occupied lands in decades. It's an area larger than many major cities, roughly 386 square miles or 1,000 square kilometers, and Israel has said it plans to stay indefinitely. Israel calls these areas buffer zones and says they are needed to prevent future attacks by militant groups. These areas are not new borders, which require an agreement between two countries, but many fear that these changes could become long-lasting. I'm Karen Shamas.
The remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur are battering southeastern states with heavy rain, sparking flash flood and tornado warnings along the Gulf Coast. And Haya Pajwani reports.
New data from the West Health Gallup Affordability Index shows that only half of U.S. adults could afford their health care and had access to quality care last year. Concerns about affording health care in the year ahead were also at a record highs. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
This is AP News. The Obama Presidential Centers opened in Chicago.
It was an extraordinary gathering.
Hi, I'm Bruce, and
From Bruce Springsteen to Bono and The Edge. A 2008 Obama campaign theme song. The ex-president appeared to wipe a tear as wife Michelle spoke.
You made the hardest job in the world look like a walk in this beautiful park.
And when he took the mic,
I hope this center will serve as an affirmation of just how special, how precious our democracy truly is.
Moments later, another campaign theme from Stevie Wonder. Both Presidents Obama and Clinton sang along, smiling, as George W. Bush and Joe Biden sat nearby. I'm Sagar Meghani.
With more news at apnews.com, I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
Conversations that matter. Community that listens. Wave 105, the Talk of Guam. A Glimpse's media radio station.
In a world that commands us to sprint through life at breakneck speed, there is a profound power in choosing to slow down. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for June 19th.
While we celebrate World Sauntering Day as a fun excuse to ease up on our morning commute, it actually connects us to a radical 19th century French fashion statement. In the 1840s, wealthy urban wanderers known as flaneurs took to the crowded streets of Paris to protest the frantic pace of the Industrial Revolution. To prove they refused to be rushed by modern society, these eccentric gentlemen began walking pet turtles on leashes through the city's upscale shopping arcades. Because a tortoise moves at an agonizingly slow crawl, it forced the walker to completely downshift their pace, transforming a simple stroll into a theatrical act of mindfulness. Today, challenge the frantic rush of your schedule, step outside without a destination, and let a turtle set your speed.
Okay, now imagine a whole city of people with turtles on a leash.
So, if you're walking down the street and all these turtles are coming at you, what do you call it?
I do not know the answer to that.
Probably not a stampede, though, huh?
Probably not a stampede. We are also celebrating Juneteenth and National Watch Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Marlo Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a canine companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia. We quickly developed a very strong bond. Together we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together we pick vegetables and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
Do you hear that? And that? And that? Those are the sounds of a healthy and vibrant community. And to this United Way volunteer, nothing sounds better. They're the sounds of children being given greater chances to succeed in school. The sounds of neighbors receiving the support needed to overcome challenges, both big and small. They're the sounds of families gaining access to quality health care and nutritious food for their tables. And they're the sounds of members of our community who've benefited from United Way's financial education programs. See, wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a United Way. People working together to respond and growing the good for everyone. United is the way. So join us by getting involved or giving back. Learn more at unitedway.org.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey. Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, may I ask a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog.
Great. Do you have a pool outside?
Nope, just a big old backyard.
Nice. Another question. Are there any unlocked guns in the home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's just talk about what we can bring for dessert.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
My name is Erica, and my son, Kason, is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burnt. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide. He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kason is still here. Go online right now to loveshriners.org.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. Let their story unfold and gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. Hire skills first. Learn why at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
We are all for first-time guests and long-time friends. All for First Light and Starlight. For road trips and trail runs. All for mountaintops and monuments. River bends and battlefields. We're all for showing up and giving back. To protect, to preserve, to pass it on. All parks depend on us, and we're all for parks. Join us at nationalparks.org/allforparks.
Hi, human. I'm a micro monster swimming around in your plastic water bottle. But I can't wait to swim in your bloodstream soon.
Microplastics are micro monsters.
Drink me. Wait, what are you doing?
But you can fight back by using glass or metal reusable water bottles.
No!
Don't let microplastic micro monsters invade your body. Find more ways to fight back at stopmicromonsters.org.
Conversations that matter. Community that listens. Wave 105, the talk of Guam. A Glimpse's media radio station.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
KGUM-FM, Wave 105.1, the Talk of Guam. It's 5:12 on this Juneteenth. We have the last hour with the BrightSide with Mr. Pauly Suba on KGUM. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll get into the program.
We do want to thank our sponsor, Subway. You got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J Ford. Get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com and get pre-approved instantly. GTA, we start with you. Chili's Grill and Bar at Chili's. More life, great food, and memories happen here. And Micropack, Dad deserves the best. Give him Bose, Sony, Mackie, and more this Father's Day at Micropack. And speaking of Father's Day, shout outs to all our sponsors that provided our First Heroes special bundle package for all of our dads. Well, everybody had the opportunity to win, but we gave it, almost all of it, to Mr. Paul. And he has been listening for quite some time. He shared a story about him and his father, where his father again was in the hospital, and he just wanted to eat he just wanted that kitsu, right? I forgot what's the name of it. Yeah. What, it's not samoro, but it's basically like it doesn't have any scales on it, right?
Yeah.
And it's got I think it's got like the stripes.
Yeah, no,
right?
I remember the story, but no, I don't remember that detail.
But anyways, he hardly ever throws the taladza, but he knows that his dad, that's how you catch it, right? And so he saw a taladzero out there, ask real quick, to teach him, right? So he can catch the fish for his dad, who was in the hospital. And so, said some prayers, and he threw that taladza, and he was able to cast his net. And he caught the kitsu, and then fried it up, brought it to the hospital, and even the nurses and the doctors, they were all eating a feast too. And so again, we took his story along with others, and we randomly chose a winner, and it was Paul. And so it was well deserved. Yeah. So
hey, don't forget Chili's. They're having a Father's Day thing, right?
Yes.
Just remembered,
for
Chili's.
sure. Yeah, and even the grads still, right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
still
The grads
happening.
eat free,
Yeah.
You're right.
And so we do want to thank our sponsors again for our First Heroes bundle package, and that's Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Hills Grill House, Auto Works, Jolly Bee, Proline, and Cream and Butter. So shout outs to them. Thank you for making it's very special for our dads. And so we're going to pivot now to good news, right? Good news for a change, and it's all brought to you by our friends at Provisions. And so Provisions, they're located in Hagåtña. They're open Monday through Saturday, so they're open tomorrow. Go check them out between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Here's the number, 671-633-9463. Place your order today or visit the website at provisionsguam.com. They serve fresh salads, delicious sandwiches, and authentic Roman-style pizza. And today's good news comes from New York City. And so, obviously, they are celebrating the Knicks championship. They have not won a championship in 53 years. And so, all the players and staff members I saw, they all got keys to the city. They had a parade that led to, I guess, City Hall. They were right outside, and they all provided speeches I wanted to play some of the speeches from the players, but their language was very colorful. But I thought that Mayor Mamdani's speech was pretty inspiring, and he kind of tells the story about of the history of not just the New York Knicks, but the city itself and how much they love their Knicks. And so that's today's good news. If you're tuned into our YouTube, you get a special treat because not only do you get to listen to his speech, you get to watch the parade as well, as though you were there. So we were able to cut this up. I do want to share that we were able to get this from the Fox satellite in New York City. So that's where this is coming from, and cut it up using their footage also of the parade. And so we're sharing that right now for good news right here on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, if you're listening in your car, then you'll hear the speech.
My fellow New Yorkers, for 53 long years we have watched and we have waited. We have watched from nosebleeds and through gritted teeth, on televisions in the windows of electronic stores, and from projectors balanced on fire escapes. We have watched alone in our apartments with our heads in our hands, shoulder to shoulder at bars where the signal flickers, alongside friends and family who we wish more than anything could be here today, sharing this moment. For 53 long years, we have watched the Knicks and we have waited. We waited as the memory of Willis Reed winning the championship on one leg grew fainter and fainter. We waited as Clyde came up clutch again and again. As John Starks dunked on Jordan and Patrick Ewing dunked on the Pacers. As Bernard King scored 60. As Charles Oakley pulled every rebound within reach. As Spike got in Reggie Miller's face. As Allen Houston put up a shot against Miami that hung in the air for an eternity. As Larry Johnson gave us the 4-point play heard around New York. As Starbury traded threes with Kobe and then sold sneakers every kid could afford. As Nate Robinson stuffed Yao Ming. As the city came alive watching Linsanity. And as Melo lived every Brooklyn dreams when he came home and made MSG feel like the center of the universe once again. We waited without ever knowing if this day would come, and we waited because we knew deep down in our sick, suffering hearts that it would. New York City, this team has done it. The New York Knicks are NBA champions. We are here not just because of this team that will go down in New York City legend. I'm talking about guys like Ronaldo Balkman, Marty Collins, Raymond Felton, Marcus Camby, Kristaps Porzingis, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, and the whole Knicks tape era. I'm talking about guys like Tony Douglas, who I watched tie the single-game franchise record for threes from the stands in 2011. I'm talking about Amari, who got this whole city fired up when he joined. And I'm talking about Jared Jeffries and Lance Thomas and Langston Galloway. Players who gave everything every game, even when a 20-win season was all that was in sight. This championship belongs to them too, because championships aren't just built in one season. It belongs to Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle. And also to a coach who helped lay the groundwork, Tom Thibodeau. Thanks to each of these New Yorkers and too many others to name, New York City has just had two of the most magical months in as long as any of us can remember. Over these past weeks, as the Knicks kept winning, our city has come together as one. Neighbors invited neighbors over. Strangers high-fived one another in the street. Subway conductors sang their announcements and bus drivers danced behind the wheel. So often when this city comes together, it is because we are forced to, by a moment of tragedy or adversity. What a gift it is to be brought together by pure, unfiltered joy. For as long as we live, we will remember this feeling of a city together, a city alive, a city overcome by happiness. But let's not pretend that this was inevitable. If you will allow me, I want to travel back in time 8 days. Game 4. 9 minutes and 33 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Knicks are down 20. The analytics guys, the sports betting companies, the pundits who watch from far away, they do what they do. They run the numbers. They calculate the odds. They write the Knicks off. They give the Spurs a 99.6% chance of winning the game. A 99.6% chance of tying up the series 2-2, of reclaiming the momentum with the next game in San Antonio. A 99.6% chance of silencing the Garden, of another year of watching and waiting. But there is one thing that the pundits just don't get about this team, that they just don't get about this city. It is in that 0.4% that we go to work. It is in that 0.4% that Jalen Brunson, the same guy that so many said was too small, proves that not only is he good enough, he is the new standard for greatness. It is in that 0.4% that OG Anunoby watches the ball float from the top of the arc and start running toward the basket, fingers reaching towards the heavens. It is in that 0.4% that Karl Anthony Towns finds the strength to mourn his mother and still pull in rebound after rebound, make block after block. It is in that 0.4% that Jose Alvarado shows every kid growing up in public housing that a son of Brooklyn and Queens can win for every one of the 5 boroughs. It is in that 0.4% that Mitch breaks his finger before game 1 and says, go get the tape. It's in that 0.4% that Josh Hart gets rebounds that break teams, that McCall Bridges proves he was worth every single draft pick, that Landry Shamet pulls up from downtown, that every one of these 18 players transforms the franchise, that Mike Brown keeps this team believing. Most of all, it's in that 0.4% that the Knicks do what New Yorkers have always done when we are told something is impossible. We find a way. We win. Standing here before what feels like the entire city, there is a Jalen Brunson quote I can't stop thinking about. I'm gonna tell you. You are allowed to think about the worst possible scenario, but you gotta go out there and do something about it. When Jalen Brunson took that pay cut, my friends, that was doing something about it. Time after time, we thought about the worst possible scenario. And time after time, the Knicks went out there and did something about it. The Knicks did not just win for New York City. They won like New York City. What is New York if not your back up against the wall? A dream that feels just out of reach. A rent payment you don't know how you'll ever make. What is New York if not 99.6% of the world stacked against you? And who are New Yorkers if not people who hear those odds and smile? Who look at a 0.4% chance of success and ask, why are you giving me a head start? This is our city. This is our team. For 53 years we watched. For 53 years we waited. Now we've won. One last time, New York, say it with me. Knicks in. Knicks in.
There you go. Yeah. My mayor Muslim. What does it say? What is the saying? My mayor Muslim, my Christian Dior, my bread Jewish, my Pope Divine, Knicks in 5. I like the 4 better though. My Christian Dior, Knicks in 4. I like that. I like that saying way better. What do you think of the parade? I mean, we didn't actually get to hear a lot.
We didn't like see
the
that.
vibe was crazy
It
though.
was.
It really was, because when you turn it up, I didn't want to turn it up because the YouTube would have shut us down with all of the copyrighted music, but then also some of the vulgar language and all those rap songs that they were playing on the in the streets of New York City. But I mean, you didn't see it, but even Alicia Keys was on a piano singing the New York State of Mind song, right? Yeah. And some parts in the parade, too, they were also playing the Frank Sinatra song, too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, what our parade floats look a whole lot better than theirs. But, you know, I mean, it's not going to take the place of being there in person, right?
Sure.
Have you ever been to New York City?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay. So what, Times Square, Central Park, all of that?
All of that. All of it.
Yeah, I was in awe. I mean, we were able to go once. I definitely do want to go back.
Was it for
just for vacation?
Oh, okay, that's
we were
nice.
able to go check it out, and so yeah, it's everything I thought it was gonna be.
Same.
So, do you remember Naked Cowboy?
What is that? Is that like a cartoon?
He's a legit dude. So he was super popular, like early 2000s.
Is this the Jackass guy?
No, he's just a dude that was famous on Times Square.
You're right.
He wore a cowboy hat. He wore boots.
But he would be like featured on MTV.
He wore
He
had underwear just
that.
out in his underwear in his tighty whities with guitar.
I remember that. I remember.
And so we saw him there. We took pictures with the guy. And then Toys R Us, I don't think exists anymore.
Oh.
But Toys R Us was big on Times Square, and
that's
we
true.
took my
right there. Yeah, you're right.
My oldest son was just a toddler at the time, and he was having a blast. Like every floor, we were able to take pictures inside, and then when we came outside, they put the picture on Times Square.
Yeah.
We still have the picture of us right outside Times Square with our family photo at the top. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, the situation with 9/11, and so we went to the memorial there, and so you have goosebumps, and it was very solemn. You still felt that, you know, the significance of that catastrophe, you know, and you felt it because you remember all the first responders too.
Yeah.
Right. That responded to that travesty.
I think I was like in middle school when that happened.
2001, right?
Yeah. I think I was like 6th grade.
So I mean, we were there when we were there, like maybe 2009, and so you still felt that.
You did.
Right. And so, I'm just so happy for that city because the city deserves that win. They deserved all of the, you know, how Memdani was talking about, you know, everybody doubting them and, you know, what it means to be a New Yorker.
That's what I feel like the message there. Like, I don't know. I didn't watch the UFC, but just like.
The UFC?
No, you know, the White House.
Oh, yeah. I
but
watched
like,
it.
I'm like looking at it like, this is like classic. Or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I didn't watch the UFC fight, but. I don't know, just like what snippets I saw of it.
Yeah.
Like,
were you offended?
Of that happening?
Yeah.
I don't want to say I was offended, but I don't see what does it have to do with America. Like, I don't know. That's my opinion. Like, okay, you're saying America 250, but I don't think this is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I felt about it
Honestly,
either, right?
same.
But I watched it, and so just the fights itself. Where I was impressed. It was like one knockout after another. But the production value was
that one,
top tier, though.
I'll give them that.
I was like, what are we watching? I don't know if am I allowed to like this? But I did. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
Because the jets flew over the octagon. The backdrop was the White House. These fighters were shadow boxing in the Oval Office. So I don't know if you could have scripted this any better though, because Justin Gaethje, right? He's the American, right? And he was challenging a Georgian, right?
Yes.
I don't know, but he also calls Spain his home. I think he's like he has dual citizenship, right? So obviously he's not an American, but I don't know. I never really saw it like that, right? I saw it, these are fighters. There's a respect, a mutual respect that you have. However, Justin Gaethje, when he goes out, he's staring at the Constitution. He looks at the Constitution, and then he walks out, his walkout with the U.S. flag wrapped around him.
Okay.
Right? And so you couldn't have scripted it any better. And then he goes out as the underdog and whoops this dude. He pieces him so, like, the guy couldn't even get out of the round. His corner had to call it. They threw in the towel because he was beat so badly. And the thing about Ilya, right, is he's so, and I guess there's a bit of this, right? Like, you're a fighter, you got an ego, and it's also part of the sport, it's part of the gamesmanship, right?
Yeah.
But he was so prideful that he was already celebrating his win before the fight. Like, he literally had a party before the fight even happened of his win against Justin Gaethje. Like, that's how egotistical this guy is. And then look, I think that's karma. But the production value of the whole thing, I'm like, I hope they kind of shot themselves in the foot, to be honest, because now I expect that out of the UFC moving forward. That production value, you must now commit to that level of production every time I watch a UFC fight. And so people I don't necessarily disagree with somebody that says, "Wow, that was completely tasteful." Okay, I guess you can say that, but there were some statements saying that we wasted a lot of federal tax money, and so there is some money that was used, obviously for security.
Yeah.
But the UFC foot the entire bill for all of it, the production, the fees, and whatnot. The UFC paid for that. And also, when the argument is, well, the federal government should protect us, not entertain us. I don't necessarily agree with that either. They should entertain us at some level, right? I mean, watching Donald Trump is entertaining in itself.
At least we all went not a ballroom that we cannot go to the ballroom.
Right. But what I would say with just government, because let's look at our own local government, right? I mean, our local government does entertain us. They do use taxpayer money for things like fireworks, the Liberation Parade. There's cost in that. We are paying security as well. Police officers work the parade. So does the fire department. So does DPW. So does Guam Solid Waste Authority. And we demand that we have this parade every year, right? I mean, obviously, it's not the Octagon. It's not the UFC.
Right.
But again, the UFC paid for that event, right? But the argument of the federal government should not entertain us. Well, they didn't pay for it, and they do there are other events where the federal government does entertain their people. Morale is a big part of a healthy community, and we do it too here. Our local government does pay for morale events, and a good example is Liberation Day, which is coming up. 5:36 in the afternoon. We'll take the break. Yeah. Wave 105. We got another look at your traffic coming up very soon.
Conversations that matter. Community that listens. Wave 105, the talk of Guam. A Glimpse's media radio station.
Where's my phone? Where's my internet? What happened to my church? What happened to my house? My phone, my newspaper, my internet, my church, now my house? How did this all happen?
Freedom. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
Why be at the forefront of childhood cancer research? At St. Jude, we do it because every innovation we make is a moment we give to children with cancer everywhere. But we can't do it without you. Help St. Jude give children with cancer more moments. Moments that can last a lifetime. Learn more at stjude.org.
This Father's Day, level up Dad's Ride with 20% off Nano Ceramic Coating. Go Global HP for style or Extreme Ceramic to beat the heat. Call 647-SLAM. Detailing and gift certificates available. All summer long, Chili's Party Platters make celebrating easy and delicious. Perfect for grad parties, family gatherings, or anytime you're feeding a crowd. Available for pickup or for delivery. Only at Chili's. Great value and memories happen here. Celebrate Father's Day with Power 98 and Wave 105 as we honor our first heroes. To enter, send a WhatsApp message or call in and share your funniest or most heartfelt dad story. Winners will be revealed from June 15th to June 19th, and you can win your dad a special bundle prize. Stay locked in to Power 98 and Wave 105. Brought to you by Guam Plaza Resort, Nana's Cafe, Roots Grill House, AutoWorks, Jollibee, Proline, and Cream and Butter.
The road to Adelup is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Munilla Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. This is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
All right, let's help you move forward on this Friday afternoon. Looking at my handy-dandy glimpses of Guam traffic app here. See how we can help you out here. Doesn't look like I can help you much, especially when it comes to Route 1. Mild congestion. Actually, it's not so bad for a Friday afternoon, right? I mean, mild congestion, obviously. Major intersection, expect those delays. Coming out of Tumon and getting onto 1 is going to be challenging for you. Route 8 isn't too bad until you start getting closer to the intersection. And so Route 10 is even better. Route 4 shouldn't be an issue for you. You should be able to get down to Pago Bay and over to Zonia with no real issues. And if you're heading south, I mean, that's going to be, there's no stress at all. So if you live down in Hoggett, it's nice and easy for you. I mean, obviously, the roads are wet, right? And so you definitely want to be safe. Keep the speed limit at a safe pace. You should be good to go, right? And then everybody will be able to celebrate Father's Day in no time on Sunday. Helping you move forward on this Friday is Guam Auto Spot. Call them up, 478 Auto. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
Treat Dad to an unforgettable dinner at Roots Hills Grill House. June 19 through June 21. Enjoy a 3-course menu with premium steak, fresh seafood, and sweet finishes. $90 per person. Reserve your table and celebrate Dad in style.
Half a day. This is Luella Lucinio, host of Pinas de Guam. Together with the Filipino community of Guam and Wave 105.1, we proudly celebrate Philippine Independence Month with the theme Kalayaan, Kinabukasan, Kasaysayan, Freedom, Future, History. From Guam to the Philippines, we honor our shared history, celebrate our freedom, and build our future together. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at Guam!
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Close your eyes and open your senses. The all-new 2026 Mazda CX-5 is here from $29,995 or $198 per paycheck for qualified buyers. Triple J Mazda.
Guam is building the future, and the right conversations start here. SAME Guam Post invites you to the 2026 Industry Forum happening July 28 through 30 at the Dusit Tani Resort. Join military, government, and industry leaders as they come together to discuss Guam's future in infrastructure, resilience, and regional growth. This premier event connects you to Guam's next generation of infrastructure. Registration is open. Visit GuamIndustryForum.com. The 2026 SAME Industry Forum, delivering Indo-Pacific readiness.
Your daily dose of island insight. Wave 105, the talk of Guam, a Glimpses media radio station.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back. Viva Business, 5:43. Well, now it's 5:44 in the afternoon. We are with the OG himself.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for hanging out with us. I haven't looked outside in a while. Are the roads still wet? How does
You know
it
what
look?
we're getting. It's
Okay.
interesting coming from the south.
Okay.
That's if you look at your windy or the prevailing winds right from the south,
Okay.
southeast, and so that's pushing this way. So you can see that we still have big black clouds
Okay.
coming across. Then it's blue sky.
Yeah.
Then it's the black cloud. Then it's blue sky. It's just the tropical living.
For
right?
sure.
It's what it is. It's wonderful.
sure.
It's beautiful. We're blessed. Last night, where we sleep is kind of downstairs. Out. There's no windows or doors.
Okay.
Or it's open, right?
Okay.
So last night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
Felt like the aircon?
No, it didn't feel like the
Oh, okay.
aircon. No, it felt like you were at sea.
Oh,
Right,
wow.
because we have is tarps down, right?
Sure.
So the tarps are moving.
Sure.
You have that cool right before the rain, really heavy rains come. You get that real kind of cool rush.
Uh-huh.
You know what that is? It's called negative ions.
Okay.
We talked about this, right? 2 charges of oxygen.
Oh, yes.
You're positive,
Yes.
and your positive is the one that's bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
These guys that run next to the Marine Corps Drive, I don't know. They're inhaling the carbon monoxide up but an air conditioner that's not getting cleaned, cooking over a gas stove. That's why there's that time for about gas stoves. Try to vent it. And then what you can do is, in positive, that's the bad part for it. And then the negative ions are the falling rain, waterfalls, breaking waves. So where we are, we got these waves crashing. We got this heavy rain coming in, and the ironwoods. So you blend all that. The only thing I'm missing is bamboo, Pauly. I want to get some bamboo because bamboo works. It starts rubbing against the other.
Okay.
And starts
Oh,
making, a symphony of
Right.
Of natural. And what we're really approaching, just minutes away, is Father's Day.
Yes.
Now, what you contemplate is if you, in a metaphysical sense, picked your parents prior to being born, that there's something like that you had to be born into a family that was going to teach you how to be gentle, right? And the way they were going to teach you how to be gentle was however way you thought you had to be taught that way, in that metaphysical sense. That's this forgetting thing. When we come here, we forget where we came from. And the whole idea is to remember where we came from. And in doing that, you start exercising these kind of thoughts, and then you get reinforced through your synchronicities to think that this is in fact a thought that has merit to it, because you understand why your parents are your parents, what they set you up for. I've seen my parents set me up for Guam. Wow. Don't blame me, right? For being so far away. No, you guys gave me this.
Right.
Gave me that independence. Now, one of the interesting things that a good father that I feel can do is give their child a lot of independence at the right time.
Okay.
And in giving them that independence, then that's when they have that ability to exercise their will. I will do this, or I won't do this in lifetime. They're not worried about somebody telling them what to do. It's like your freshman year in college in the States, right? You're a completely different person as opposed to being, living in your house with your parents, and how you relate to the world. But you take that with you. Oftentimes you hear a woman go, "Oh, I'm getting more and more like my mother every day."
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're growing into something that you predestined to have as parents. You could have a previous life could have been where you're very, very wealthy. And now this life is you're impoverished and you're struggling. And in a situation, again, being an American citizen, you get the dividends, you get the food and you get the housing and maybe a little welfare just to get by. But that's what we have to look at, is what we're going to do in this Father's Day. How many homeless out there are fathers? How many homeless men are walking around this island who are fathers? And you think about that, and then it gets closer to home, maybe even grandfathers. And then you really see the importance. If we ask the AG to take the money that he has from the opioid, because the opioid, whatever anybody can get, they get. So opioids involved. Over by the tennis courts, all that area over there next to the Ganya River.
Okay.
All that area over there could be really, really well cleaned up, make it really nice, and make it a community living area.
Sure.
Where you have different designated concrete small little houses with fans and big windows, but shutters, and it's a bathroom and a shower right there where and he could do that. He's got 1.2 million that he was going to invest in that other project.
The Dignity Project.
Yeah.
This could also still be Dignity Project.
Absolutely.
Dignity Project 2.0.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it could be something that will bring the whole island together.
Right.
Because you think about how many of these homeless women are mothers. What is their history? You sit down with them on the bench and let them put their...
some of them also have special needs too.
Or maybe we're the one with the special needs.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe we're the one. I mean, you think about it, it looks like it's really going to rain. Okay, I'll go to the cathedral. The park ranger's not going to be buying for about 2 hours. I can sleep there.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, okay, let's see. All right, okay, in front of Duenas' building. I can put my things there. They'll be safe right there. Because I'm the one that steals stuff, so should be safe. Right? It's that world. But
Sure.
when you think about, okay, what was their life, if in fact you believe in reincarnation,
right?
What was their life prior to this life?
Sure.
Were they living in a wealthy estate, navigating a large business?
And now they need to see the other side.
And now they don't want to do that. They already did that. It's too crazy for them. And now they want to be completely free.
Sure.
Of the helots.
The reason why I also bring it up is because when we're talking about what does a space like what you're talking about, what can that mean for an individual? It can mean a lot of things.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, that's your
especially somebody with special needs
right.
that isn't ready to go anywhere else but live on the streets. At least we know that they have peace of mind.
Right. Well, and the thing of it is, there's no violence.
Right.
And to that aspect.
Right.
I'm sure that on the street there's a hierarchy to who's got the most dogs or who's got just because you're on the street, and everybody knows each other.
Right.
And they're different situations. And it's interesting. Some folks that I've seen have relatives around that they go visit or they spend a little bit of time with, but then they come back onto the street. And if they had a place like these little, you could make a 10 by 10. That's all you need, with some electricity and some solar, and put her over there by the pool, and use that 1.2 million. So we'll make a presentation to the AG. We've done about 2 or 3 presentations already.
Okay. And then what about the presentation to GVB for?
Their next meeting.
Okay.
Their next meeting.
So we've
already written it up. Yeah,
okay.
What we're asking for.
Tomorrow.
The sponsorship. Yeah, right. The sponsorship, around maybe $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
You hire like 3 or 4 young guys, $10 an hour.
Right.
And the trolley goes through there.
Right.
The trolley comes up, drops off whoever they have. They spend a half an hour until the next trolley comes.
Sure.
Then they get to go to see Jill with her shop, the Guma. Is full, with it's so nice. Mark Delasola's up there making his masterpieces.
The hot news
there. The hot news there, and you got your Matingan Museum.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's termite free.
Right.
Okay. Right. So it's being taken care of.
Okay.
And
that's good.
But that's the present, and also the Phenomena of the Marianas. That's also a Phenomena of the Marianas is a documentary that we're doing with Brian Munya and Jefferson Cronin, and it's in the works. Well, it's what it is, the funding.
Okay.
Right now, there's no federal funding for cultural things, but this presentation of why anybody would ever want to come to the Marianas, because this being the humans, teaching humans how to be human, and the proof is in the pudding, man. The proof is in the newspaper. The proof, what is the probability of all these venues all over the world where Chamorro people just are not anybody representing the Chamorro Islands? It doesn't make no what your ethnicity is, just as long as you're representing the Chamorro way of life, and that is the kicker. I mean, the list is phenomena. That's why. And then I carry around, I got all the $100 bill, the $50 bill, the $20 bill, $10 bill, and I don't have a $2 bill. I don't have a $2 bill with Rosa Gumatau Rios on it.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was Obama's time, and so it's an old bill, so they might be phasing some of those out someday. But Gumatau being on the money, I mean, what more proof do you need that there's that's not Casa, that's not Spanish. That's Guamanian Chamorro to the max. So in thinking about this, where all of this comes about, so consequently, we must have in our hearts the best fathers. The fathers who know how to do what? To show that this is where humans teach humans how to be human. It's the father that starts the barbecue when the FEMA people are walking through the neighborhood and passing out beer and their roof is a block away, right? In the olden days, now you can't build a house without cement roofs, but into that aspect. And so the FEMA people and how they say, everybody else we go, they're all crying and they're all upset and they're all, you people are unique to that. I mean, that's the story.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been a number of agents, whether it's FEMA or just even military officers, saying the people of Guam are resilient.
Yeah.
That comes up in history over and over and over.
You know how resilient they are?
Thousands of years ago.
60 to 90,000 Chamorros were killed by the Spanish because they truly believed, and they didn't want to surrender. They could have surrendered. They didn't want to surrender to you have to die to have your paradise. That's Harau's big one.
Right.
Why do we have to die to have our paradise? We'll die for that.
Right.
We'll die for that.
Yeah.
60 to 90,000.
Right.
Right. So you think about what that kind of impact would be. So that's where the most powerful Chamorro word emerges from. The most powerful Chamorro word, Masakata. Masakata is now the national women's soccer team. Masakata in Chamorro means brave woman. It was the brave woman with the 3,000 survivors down here in Hagana who said, speak Chamorro to your children. Speak Chamorro to your children.
Right.
Or it would be no culture. We habla español.
Right.
So that in itself, you think about what we have and who carried it. Not only mothers, but fathers. The Adahi, the protector, the Adahi, and that aspect, to making sure, because now you just can imagine after the war, trying to build up. It's like in Rhoda, we go to the ranch. Okay, so here's 30,000 in Agana. So all of a sudden now they're out in all the ranches. So for how long in that aspect of 300 years of Spanish influence? So, and the ranches, and that's how all the villages were built.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was in Puerto Rico, it was interesting because I'm like, wait a minute, almost every area that we went looked almost like a Plaza de España. It had a church, it had a governor's house, it had a center, it had
like
a
chocolate
meeting
house?
place.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm like, this is the Spanish influence.
Oh yeah, the palace.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that you can only reflect if you want to have the Chamorro-ness. Go to Pagat. Go to Pagat and go down in the Lottie sites down there, and spend the night. And it's easy. It's a camp out. Let's go camping. Okay. So into that realm, and then you spend the night there, and then when you do that in that space, you become that, because where your space is what you become. Because you think about frequency, you think about energy, you think about, when they look at us closely, they realize there's a lot of space between each cell, right? And this light that we're moving and going and expanding through the universe, and we're just this thin sheet. And in that thought, that's where exactly in that thought, it emerges to what it is that you are seeing and experiencing in that thought. You see what I mean? That's what this new earth is all about. That you have that ability now. Now you see your disclosure day?
I haven't yet.
Disclosure day is about two young children, a boy and girl, who get abducted when they're about 8 or 9, 10 years old.
Okay.
And when they get abducted, one of the little boy is giving the universe, the knowledge of the universe through math. Okay? And the little girl is given the ability to, hi Pauly. Hi Pauly. So, yeah, your dad is right now at the church. I'm sorry about the neighbor who passed, but I know he's over there now. Don't forget, pay more attention now to your daughter. Pay more attention to your daughter, Pauly. Okay, yeah. Oh, all right. Who you can just go into their minds. She could just go into people's minds and know their names, know everything about them. That's the Christ consciousness. That's the cosmic consciousness that Dr. Richard Albert met the guru in Be Here Now, that book, where he engages with this guru, the older gentleman who knew what he was thinking about the night before. That's what we're talking about. She was given that. So you have two opposing for a disclosure of alien life. You have the ones that don't want it to happen, and you want the ones that are working to have it happen. And the ones that are working to have it happen have all this evidence, tremendous amount of evidence, because this little boy grew up into this math wizard who gathered all this evidence through working for the company that was hoarding it, not releasing it. And then she was an anchor on a TV. The weather. So they were able to do what they were able to do in the day of disclosure.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now I know what we're doing on Father's Day.
Yeah, there you go.
We're gonna watch it, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and look at it in that space.
Yes.
And you'll get an idea that this is what this new Earth is all about.
Okay.
Right, that you're able, because you can define it, and so a policeman comes up to her, right?
Okay.
And she just reads the policeman, and he just kind of drops his arms, and she drives away.
Yeah.
No, it's you can see the power of that.
Yeah.
But everybody can do these things. Everybody can do these things, but the only thing it's like learning how to play guitar.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say you're at a restaurant, and you see a table of 4, a mom, dad, and 2 children. Try to guess their names.
Okay.
Try to whatever names
Yeah.
you look at them and just say, "Oh, Sarah," just.
It takes practice, though, right?
You got to just do it. 'Cause
right.
we can sit and talk about it.
Sure.
But until you actually go,
right,
and say, "Oh, excuse me, is your name Sarah?" Right, or something like this. Approach this way, you know.
Right.
Just some kind of influence. I'm
I
hi,
understand,
I'm Ren.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just and then that way you're developing into something that you're able to do because
Right. Yeah.
you're unlimited. Once you understand this energy and understand all this and these frequencies that are going on.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
unlimited.
It's all very fascinating, and so the conversation continues.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Yes, okay.
6 to 8.
So Sebastian's been here all day with me.
Well, I
So,
tell you,
yeah,
you know,
he's ready to go.
I want to get on his Christmas club.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get out of here, but don't go anywhere. Continue to hang out here on Wave 105 because Edge of Heaven is coming up in just a few minutes. Everybody get home safe. Be kind to each other, especially out on those roads. Guaidza, Guaidza, Guaidza. KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam.